as a historian, this is something that I was talking to my friend Rami about in the last episode, a couple episodes ago, where the conclusion that I came to was that Palestinians and the other, by extension, all the other countries that were colonized by Europe, but right now the ones that are in the forefront, Palestine is literally paying for World War II crimes.
Yeah.
That is something. That is a realization that I came to when I was talking about Palestine and the history and the.
Oh yeah, you talk about the formation of Israel, the formation of the Israeli state. Yeah,
it was like the Germans fucked up, so the brown people have pay.
Well, yeah. Where else are they going to put them? You going to put them with the white people? No.
The South America, wasn't there like?
No. Well, okay. So you have.
Yeah, because I want to know where these European Jews get that, because the Israeli Jews lived with the Palestinians and Palestinian Jews and Palestinian Arabs. DJ Khaled, a famous Palestinian, Jesus, Palestinian Jew. All these people lived in fair harmony. It wasn't kumbaya, but it was like it wasn't what's going on now.
Yeah. Well,
right?
you've got a couple things that are kind of happening simultaneously.
Okay.
It is not exclusively Europe's fault. It is partly Europe's fault,
sure,
but it's not exclusively Europe's fault.
Okay,
I'm gonna differentiate here. I'm gonna be very intentional in my language here to talk about the Jewish people versus the Israeli people,
sure,
because we need
very different people.
We need to draw. Yeah. Well, not always very different people, but these are two groups. People. You can be a part of one without necessarily being a part of the other.
Correct.
So, the Jewish people,
yes.
Lay claim to this particular section of the world, and they have some deep history. The Jewish faith is significantly older than Christianity or Islam.
Yeah.
And so they have this space that's their holy lands, and this is all that stuff. So they want this area. Now, the problem, of course, is that other groups have also wanted this area for a variety of reasons, not just Muslims. Long before the Muslims came around, long before the Christians came around, the Jews were fighting with a whole bunch of other groups that were in there, and that followed all sorts of other different religions. And so all of this group is mixing and matching and interacting, and they're doing all of their kind of stuff, right? So this is not terribly different than what you would see in 100 other places around the world.
Okay.
World War II comes around, and after World War II, you find that you have World War I and World War II, because we talk about them separately, and they need to be talked about separately. But like, as a historian, I'm taking, if you zoom out like one level, you have these two giant world wars that change everything.
Yeah.
Okay, and that drag in the world, right? Hence the World War thing.
Yeah.
So when that's all said and done, and colonialism starts to go out of vogue, now it's time for us to get rid of all of these colonies and figure out what the hell we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So you get part of the problem that is that Europe draws these lines around these groups, just like they did in Africa. I mean, the continent is in much worse shape than the Middle East is in a lot of ways, because they just drew big boxes around things, and groups that had been mortal enemies are now having to share the same space and are supposed to create a government together. Or
that sounds familiar.
Groups that were a respected minority community, because of the way you drew it, now is in charge, and now this minority community is going to get back at you for all the stuff that you did to them previously, and there's a history of bloodshed and violence and whatever else. And so you've got all of those different things happening at the same time that Islam is entering. This is wildly offensive. Islam is reaching puberty. Like, you see Christianity do the same thing during the Crusades. You see, like, most major religions go through this spot at some point where they're starting to feel themselves and they get violent.
Okay.
Like, they all do it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's the Islam has been getting treated like shit. They're having their stuff taken from them.
Yeah.
They're already upset, and then they also are getting to the point where some of their followers are leaning more towards a more violent interpretation of the Quran. So
Yeah.
You've got that happening at the same time as Europe is coming down and saying, hey, everybody, here's your new borders. Good fucking luck. Oh, by the way, y'all got oil, so we're not actually leaving.
Yeah.
So now we're going to dump a bunch of money into this situation. Now we're going to dump a bunch of resources into this situation. Now we're going to dump a bunch of these different lines and such. And all of those are going to come together. And then they're going to say, hey, by the way, the Israels aren't just going to get their own area that is now very culturally significant for another religion. We're going to give them the ability to defend that area violently. We're going to give them no real reason to work with their neighbors.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of this.